Hi, this is Jane with Green Side Up. It is fall here in North Carolina, but I am thinking spring. Because I know that there's fall and then there's that winter thing. That's why I moved down from Minnesota, because I don't like winter. But it is worth going through the winter so you can have spring. In the fall is the best time, actually it's the only time, to start getting ready for spring if you're going to be planting bulbs. And so we are going to be talking about planting bulbs today. Now, even down here in North Carolina, you can grow daffodils, tulips, hyacinths, crocus, all of those spring bulbs. You do not do them exactly the same way as you do like up in Minnesota. But as far as the planting, it's going to be the same. We're going to talk about that. Of course, planting bulbs, like any kind of planting, the first thing you're going to do is prepare your ground. Now, down here, you can put bulbs into pots. Up in, say, like Minnesota, you cannot. They won't make it through the winter. So I'm going to talk about down here in North Carolina, and you'll just have to, adjust things to wherever you live. When you are going to be planting bulbs, the first thing you're going to want to do, of course, is to have good soil. And that's just kind of for any kind of thing you're planting. So I'm going to assume that you have fixed your soil is healthy, your soil is good. If you are planting in a pot, you need to use potting soil. In the ground, you're just going to use your regular garden soil. If I'm going to be planting a group of bulbs, and I'll tell you, bulbs look better grouped than all spread out in a row. If I'm going to be doing this group of bulbs, the first thing I'm going to do after I've gotten my good soil is I'm going to dig my hole. Now, there's a couple ways you can do it. You can either dig a hole with your little spade or, of course, a bigger shovel and have like a large hole and dump several bulbs in together. The other thing that you can do is use a bulb planter. And this will make individual holes, and you can do that too. I prefer to go the easy way, which is digging a big hole. How deep your hole is and how deep you plant those bulbs depends on the bulb. If I'm going to be planting, for instance, daffodils are large bulbs. A larger bulb is going to need a deeper hole, probably about 5 to 7 inches. If I'm going to be planting something like a crocus, which is a very small bulb, these would only go about 3 to 4 inches deep. You can actually layer bulbs, so you would have your bigger bulbs down below, your smaller bulbs above them, and that will work. It will work either in a pot or in the ground. I'm often asked if you should do fertilizing when you're doing bulbs. You certainly can. There is a bulb food, or you can use something like a bone meal. You just mix this into the soil. It's a very mild fertilizer that will give those bulbs that little extra boost that they need to be absolutely beautiful in the spring. Now, there is something that bulbs need. Your spring bulbs, like your tulips, your daffodils, there's something that they need that they can only get in the wintertime, and that is the cold. These bulbs have been prepared, so they are ready to go in the ground. They've had their cool down period, and they will come up and bloom in the spring. The problem with down here in North Carolina and other warm states is that we do not have a cold enough period through the winter for bulbs like, say, tulips to have that cool down period. Now, up in Minnesota, no problem. Down here, and I'm really glad that down here we don't have that cool down period, but down here it does not get cold enough through the winter for these bulbs to rebloom the next year. So with tulip bulbs, you would either need to dig them up and then give them a cool down period, or you just have to go and buy new tulip bulbs. Daffodils, they do a little bit better, and some of the other ones will also. You're planting your bulbs in the fall. And there's these little critters called squirrels. They're also very active in the fall. And they love to go and dig up those bulbs that you have just planted. So, if you have a squirrel problem in your yard, you're going to have to put something over those bulbs, over that ground, to keep the squirrels from digging. You can, for instance, if I plant mine in pots, I just put another pot over that pot. There's nothing coming up yet, so I don't have to worry about it crushing the green stuff or anything like that. If you're planting them in the ground, you may need to use a piece of wire or some kind of, I don't know, whatever you come up with. But just make sure that you keep those bulbs covered so those little squirrels can't dig them up. Generally, once they're rooted in, that isn't the problem. I have brought with me some of my favorite bulbs. Of course, there's the daffodils. Daffodils are some of the earliest flowers to bloom in the spring, along with things like crocus. Crocus are those very tiny bulbs. I love seeing these, like it's the end of February, it's still kind of chilly out, nothing else is really blooming, and there in my garden I have all kinds of flowers. My most favorite, of course, is tulips. I love tulips. They come in different colors, and unfortunately inside we sold out of all the other colors, but they come in reds and pinks and purples and just all kinds of colors. I love the tulips coming up. They are probably my favorite flower. Tulips will come in like an early, mid, late blooming, and basically any one of those is going to bloom in your garden. There are also the hyacinths. Hyacinths have this wonderful smell to them. The other ones don't have a smell, but the hyacinths are known for their great odors. And sometimes you'll find a mix. So this is tulips, and the blue is called muscari. And the muscari is just tiny little, it's almost like a tiny little hyacinth. And then of course the tulips, and so you have both of those coming up kind of about the same time, and it gives you that multicolored in your pot or in the ground. Now, I have people coming in the spring. I want tulips. I want tulip bulbs. You know what? You're not going to find any of these bulbs available in the spring. So if you want tulip bulbs, hyacinths, daffodils, any of those, you're going to have to buy them now in the fall and plant them now. Here in North Carolina, you can plant them, probably like the end of October, way into December. Up in Minnesota or other places where it freezes much sooner, you're going to need to get them into the ground a little bit sooner. They will sit through the winter. Don't worry about them freezing because they're supposed to have a cool down period. And then in the spring, you will be rewarded with these gorgeous flowers. And you'll be the envy of everybody on the block. If you have questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below on this video. And I hope that you have learned something about bulbs. I hope you have a happy fall, lots of fun planting, and getting ready for spring. This is Jane with Green Side Up. Bye-bye.